and welcome back to the Horror Ghouls podcast. I'm T, and that is Megan, and we are connoisseurs of the eerie and macabre, or macabre, depending upon where you are. So, but we delve deep into horror movies, providing you with a full synopsis and our chilling insights. And if that tickles your amygdala, follow us on your favorite streaming platform. And if it's one of those days,
One of
um,
those days.
and if you dare to look upon our faces, find us on YouTube and tap that subscribe button. We do release new episodes once a month. So now I want you to close your eyes for a moment and drift back to your childhood. Recall those cherished toys, perhaps a doll or a stuffed animal or an action figure. Did they ever see them alive? I remember I had a Teddy Ruxpin and its eyes were unblinkingly following me across the room as it spoke in a robotic voice while I shoved grass into his mouth, actually. What about you, Megan?
Oh yeah, tons of things. Popples.
Oh, yeah.
We liked Popples a lot. We had a My Pet Monster. He was pretty cool. Later in the 90s, Furbies.
Oh, yeah.
Another thing that talks. I did not, however, stuff grass into their mouths, which I would like to delve more into and unpack that at some point. But yeah, definitely a lot of nice toys and memories and
Yeah.
such. Yeah.
When I was in college, my friend had a haunted Elmo that used to talk. So
Mm.
yeah, that's a story for another day. But
Tune in next time for Haunted
right.
Elmo. Yeah.
Right. Well, with all of that, now imagine not just one toy, but a legion of them, all whispering back to you. Every day, you and your uncanny companions laugh, play, and form bonds that transcend mere friendship. They become your family. And no, this isn't Andy's story, so let's not go there. But one fateful day, you must leave them behind. You grow up and they remain forsaken. What becomes of your devoted family then? How do they exist in your absence? You convince yourself they'll be fine. They're just toys after all. But tonight, we will reveal the dark truth of what happens when you abandon your psychosis.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I'm excited. So I want to ask you just straight out. I know we talked about some other childhood toys and such.
Mm-hmm.
Did you read or watch, because there was lots of movies and shows, any of like the Winnie the Pooh like content, I'll
Yes.
say, when
Yeah.
you were younger?
Oh yeah, yeah.
You
I
did.
definitely I had a lot of Tigger stuff and I watched the Winnie the Pooh like cartoon for
Sure.
sure. Yeah.
Sure. So did I. So did I. We had a movie at my grandma's house, I remember. And there was some scene that really freaked me out with something with like puffalumps and
Uh,
woozles or something. I don't know. It was a song with like Tigger. I don't know. Um,
I remember that slightly.
yeah, but for the most part, aside from the puffalumps, etc., feel good stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
And in the Winnie the Pooh, we had our main characters. We had Christopher Robin. We had Winnie the Pooh. We had Tigger, as you mentioned, Eeyore. There's Rabbit, Owl, Piglet, naturally, and Winnie the Pooh and Piglet were always like the best buds, kind of the bunch, right?
Yeah.
And they all lived in a place called the 100 Acre Wood. But what if the 100 Acre Wood was a scary place? And that's the journey we're going to take today with the 2023 film. That's a British slasher, Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, directed by Rhys Frake, Waterfield. So that's the adventure we're going to take. Um, I'm going to start, as you do, right at the beginning. And what they do, kind of like we just set you up for some Winnie the Pooh information. We remind you of the characters. That's what they kind of do with this. They take us through the story. It's a little bit different.
Just a smidge.
A little bit different than what we're used to. So we have our Christopher Robin. He is in the 100 Acre Wood. They tell us immediately about these crossbreeds, right? So the characters are slightly different than what we remember. And we are introduced to these things through kind of almost like a rough sketch cartoon,
Yeah, which I
kind
really
of.
liked. I like that.
I did like it.
Yeah,
It was a great way to kind of get us into what's going on here. So we have Rabbit, we have Eeyore, Owl, Piglet, and Pooh. Not Tigger.
right.
He's not a part of it. He's
No.
not he's not allowed. Um, and these half breeds, they're like half human, half animal. So do with that what you will. And it will come up more as we talk about it. But just as you said before, Christopher Robin is visiting them throughout his childhood. He's feeding them, he's befriending them over the years, over several years. And then he grows up, he has to go away to college, and they're kind of left to fend for themselves. So the winter comes, they don't have any food, they're having a hard time. And one night they decide, and we're getting just right into it, they decide they're going to eat Eeyore, which
I mean,
he was always my favorite. So out the gate, this is a drag for me where I was like, oh,
well, for
yeah,
me, I like Eeyore, but I feel like that was the natural choice to go with the depressed one first. Because he was just sitting in the corner by himself. And I felt so bad because even with this being in like a sketch cartoon type drawing thing, it still was very like Lord of the Flies type
yeah, yes,
thing, if you
yes,
know what I'm talking about. Like it was very much like
yes.
they're taking and killing Piggy. Okay, spoiler. Sorry about Lord
Lord
of
of
the
the Flies, which
Flies.
has been out for how many decades?
Right. So
It's on your middle school reading list, everyone. Just
yes,
get it out of the way. But so that happens, and they do like this is part of this rough sketch cartoon, which is good because I think that maybe showing it to us would have been too much to maybe start this movie. But this act was said to warp their brains, as the voiceover says, and they became feral and hated all things human, especially Christopher Robin for leaving them behind. So the creatures, they renounced their humanity and swore never to speak again. That's almost a direct quote from the movie, so don't come for me legally.
I wrote that exactly down like that too. So
They said it very well. It's hard to say it any better, right?
yeah,
So we flash forward 5 years. That's where we're at. 5 years. Christopher Robin is hiking in a very foggy 100-acre wood with who he discovers his fiance, Mary. Mary, right?
yes,
I think I'm good with the names this time. I finally got it down. So they're having a conversation about if she believes the stories he told her about his woodland friends from his childhood, right? And she's not really on board. She's like, well, everyone has imaginary friends when they're little. And he's like, no, but whatever. So it's starting to get stormy and they're going to find their way out of the woods, but Christopher hears a sound and takes off running and he's like, "Oh, I found them," whatever. Um and he decides to pursue the sound. So he's just taking off after them, looking for them, hoping to finally find them. So they come upon a cluster of these like woodland structures and it's interesting like they have like roofs but no walls, or some of them had walls but they're twisty branches and it's like cookware and all this stuff. um and they find all these like pots and jars and they clearly have blood on them or in them, and they also find jars with honey. So there's your title of the movie, just right there. They just give it to
right.
you immediately, blood and honey. um and Christopher's shocked because this place, it's where he used to come, but he's like, this is not what it was. And he seems concerned, right? So
Right.
Mary wants to leave, as I think any of us would. You're like, oh, you're telling me you have like imaginary animal friends you used to talk to, and now like there's a blood shed. Like, no, no.
Not to mention, she's saying we should leave, we should leave, we should leave. And in the background is a tombstone that says R.I.P. Eeyore.
I did make
Like,
a note of that.
I'm like, how did y'all not see that? They walked past that and didn't even say anything
Yeah.
at
So
all.
he's like assuring her, he's like, no, we're not in danger, we're not in danger. And it's weird because it's almost like a makeshift, like a
Like a
piece of
tree
wood
house.
or like a cardboard thing that just says RIP
Oh yeah, yeah,
Eeyore.
yeah. It's like
Yeah.
cardboard.
Yeah, it's weird. So, but I mean, they could have assumed it was natural causes, or I guess. But so he locates, like you're saying, the structure that he used to plan with these friends, and it does kind of look like a tree house. I do have that noted. And they go inside and they check it out, and they find. So this part I wasn't entirely sure. It was like they found a picture of Christopher Robin that had been destroyed, but they don't really show it to you for too long, so I couldn't even see it. Like I
No,
I rewound it even, and I wasn't sure, but it appears that it's a picture that was destroyed of him. And so they're like, well, why would they do that? So then they hear someone coming, um, and they hide, right? So whoever comes in the room, whoever it is, because they don't show us, just like hops into one of the bunks and goes to sleep. So Christopher and Mary stay hidden, but they try to make for a break for it in the night, right? So when they pop out and they're looking around and they're kind of going through slowly, a little too slowly if you're trying to get out of somewhere, terrifying in my opinion. Piglet, our new Piglet, that's like a man pig
Like a
thing.
boar. He has
He
horns coming
does.
out of his mouth.
He has like the boar, like Pumbaa, like Lion
Hmm.
King, but like not brown. Um,
And not cute.
and not cute. Almost, he reminds me, there's a cartoon, I can't think of it, and I know my friend's gonna be annoyed that I can't think of it either. There's that cartoon that had, I think it was the Ninja Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, where one of the villains was like a weird boar thing with
Oh.
like a mohawk. Anyway, you guys are probably screaming. They're like, "Oh my God, he's the same!" Like they're yelling, but I don't know what it is. I'm sorry. So Piglet pops out and he's like choking Mary out, right? And this is definitely a far cry from the Piglet of our childhoods. And also, he just kind of looks like a man with a mask on, kind of at the same time.
I'm
Like,
gonna let me say this now
please.
because this movie this movie is odd, and the characters of Winnie the Pooh and Piglet are literally like men with these animal heads, but there is a clear scene where you just see the person underneath the
Oh,
mask.
I missed that.
Yeah,
Okay.
and
I
I
do
was just
have
like, that's weird.
I do have a comment that I wrote later on where maybe I wonder if it's the same thing. I'm curious to see if we line up when I
We'll
get to
see.
that point.
Yeah.
We're gonna see what happens. But I agree with you. I agree with you. So um we then flash from there just to more like another rough cartoony sketch, whatever, where it looks like they drag Christopher Robin into a cave
That's
where
true.
it indicates that he was cooked and eaten. That's what it
Right.
indicates, right? So
Interesting.
it's interesting, and we're going to find out why later on. So during the opening credit sequence,
Hold it.
oh,
Wait.
yeah, yeah, go,
I want to say one thing.
please.
When Mary is getting choked out by Piglet with this, he's doing it with a chain. Chains seem to be his tool of
And it's like a
choice.
big ass thick one, too. Like
Yeah.
it's, yeah.
I'm a little aggravated because Christopher Robin did not try to help her. He got on the ground and cried, please no, no, Mary, no. Like, I
Remember, we said
mean,
they're British, too, just to
yes,
explain if you forgot
yes.
about the.
Which listen, Winnie the Pooh was never British, but this whole thing is
It's
British.
British now. They're
Well,
Brits now.
I think the person who created it was actually British.
Rhys,
Um,
yes. Oh,
not
no,
no no
the
no the
original.
original
I'm sorry.
person.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, Christopher Robin's dad. um,
Christopher Robin's father.
yeah,
Yeah.
but like I'm like, sir, that's your fiance.
Help her.
Yeah, he didn't do anything,
Yeah,
nothing, and so
he
I
didn't.
already
He
was
was
like,
like,
if he got
sup. Yeah.
right, I'm like, if he got dragged into there and was stripped butt naked and cooked, that's on him.
That's totally
Okay.
fine. I'm with you. I'm totally with you with that. So they just set up from that point through the opening credits. All we see is like newspaper articles and missing posters, letting us know that perhaps our hybrid pals have been causing some trouble in the 100 Acre Wood for like a while, right? So we're introduced after that to a new character. Her name is Maria. She's in a therapy session and she alludes to struggling with like fear and anxiety. And the scene is very vague, but she does indicate that these issues stem from something having to do with a man who's still out there. That's all we know. That's all we get from her. But the therapist advises Maria to take a weekend away to kind of start to feel safe. She's like, go somewhere safe, kind of like come back to yourself, self care, hashtag self care, right? So Maria has taken it upon herself to get away to the 100 Acre Wood, which is an unfortunate choice. On her way, she stops at a rundown, seemingly abandoned gas station, which is never a good sign in a horror movie.
Right.
And after looking around, a haggard, long haired dude stumbles out of the back and is creepy. So, standard horror formula. Again, we get the standard horror.
Yes.
And she's with a group of friends and manages to leave unscathed, but not before bumping into a couple who have also come into this abandoned gas station
Yes.
for
And
some reason.
I have everybody's name.
Oh, do you? Okay, good.
Yes. So the creepy guy in the gas station, his name is Logan, actually.
Oh my God. That's
Yes.
my nephew's name.
His name is
I won't tell
Logan.
him. I won't tell him about it.
And the woman and man that come in, their names Charlene and Daryl. They're a couple. And we
I'm very confused now. Okay. I'm
Mhm.
interested, but I'm very confused. Okay. So we're going to get into that. I'm actually going to ask you some questions since apparently you know more about this than me. So before we get back into Charlene, so we see after, Maria gets away, she goes, her and four of her friends have rented this big, beautiful house, kind of like on the edge of the woods, like not deep in it, but there. Um, they agree to put their phones away to better connect with nature.
Which is dumb.
It's dumb. It's dumb. So we then meet someone else who initially I thought was in their friend group because of the way that it was shot,
She was. She was.
but that was Charlene,
No,
I
wasn't.
thought.
That
It
was Tina.
wasn't?
It was Tina. So
Okay. Okay.
let's go
Thank
back
you.
for a second,
I love
right?
it. Yes, let's go back.
So we're not going to talk about Charlene. Forget Charlene for a second, everybody.
Yes. Forget Charlene.
So when they're driving to this 100 acre wood, Tina calls on the phone and is like, I'm on my
Yes.
way. I promise I'm on my way. And funny enough, when they get to the house, they basically put their phones away and they're like, we don't, Tina's not coming. They make that remark that Tina's not coming. So they're not expecting Tina to show up.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was Tina's mistake. She should have gone with the group. So poor Tina, man. And that explains so much too, because I was confused because their hair colors were different. And I was like, wait, but again, all will be revealed in time, everyone. Don't worry. So Tina's making her phone calls. She's not getting reception. She's some reason going deeper into the woods by herself. Which is never
Which
smart.
was stupid.
So dumb. But within seconds, she just sees like this hybrid bear person, which is Winnie the Pooh, staring at her from a short distance away, but he runs at her and a chase begins, right? So she runs into, it's like a warehouse, but it's like a place, like a storage barn almost, like farmers have, whatever. Her pursuer follows her. She hides, not well. And then immediately, without even waiting very long, which is very silly, she just shoots up. She's like, oh, and Winnie the Pooh. This is so weird to say this in this context, Winnie the Pooh. He's right there, and he grabs her, and immediately, somehow magically, she loses her entire shirt.
It's the gratuitous titty shot of the 80s.
Yo, but it's like I don't even understand because all he like grabs her arm and it's like like I
I
don't know.
know. That's why I was like, this is so gratuitous. This was definitely like, hey, what actress is willing to show her tits on camera? And she said, me. And they said, you're Tina.
She said, I will for a price. And the price was like $10. And she was like, good enough. Like
Right.
but the whole shirt, like it doesn't even make any sense.
It
So
doesn't.
then he is smashing her head into the side of, I couldn't tell at first, but then I did see that it was like a good old fashioned chipper shredder. Um, and then he just like kind of shoves her whole body in it, but it was in a way that it was like too easy to do. Like that machinery doesn't work like that.
Right. Yeah.
So it's kind of ridiculous, but I digress. So back at the house, the girls are settling into their room. So Tina's done for. She's over. Everything's gone. Um, we discover in the house that two of the girls are romantically involved, Zoe and Alice, and that one of the other girls, Lara, I'm not sure how they were saying her name.
Laura, I
She's
think.
she's some kind of like influencer, or she's just obsessed with Instagram. I'm not entirely
Yeah,
sure
I thought
which.
the way she was acting, it seemed like she had an OF. Just
Yes,
that's what it looked like.
exactly. Well, she's
Okay.
like, I'm not giving up my phone because that's her money source. And like, do you, girlfriend? I'm not mad at it.
Yeah,
You
she
know.
gave up her phone at first, but there's a scene where she's the only person who steals her phone back.
Yes, she took it back. She was like not about it. So Maria starts to talk about the experience that brought her to therapy with her friends. So there's that other friend I just told you about, the other girls. Her other friend is Jess. So those are all the people in the house, right? Um, and so she basically tells them she was being stalked and peeped on by a creepy dude. And inevitably he broke into her house and like tried to undress her while she was sleeping. So this has left her with some trauma, as it would anyone, I imagine. But then right from there, there were moments in this where I was outright laughing. So they just cut to a scene where Pooh is like riding an exercise bike, right?
Yeah, I think he was. It was
It
weird.
was
It was like he was powering up the
yes.
lights and stuff.
So it was something
Um,
he was doing to power like the electricity in their little habitat because you could see um there were
like
different places where the lights would like flicker and whatever while he was doing it. But I'm like, why is Winnie the Pooh riding an exercise bike? Like I know the electricity part, but I was still like,
weird.
that's weird. So
By the way,
yes.
the man who was stalking Maria, is also the person who plays Piglet.
Oh, so they had him do double duty.
Yeah.
This was a film on a budget. I
It
respect I
was.
respect it. I respect
So if
it.
you wondered who was under the mask, that was who was under the mask.
Oh
Um,
man.
which it's creepy. It's
The
even
Met.
creepy to think that he's Piglet and also the stalker. It kind
I
of
just
brings something full circle later on to me. I was just
I'm
like,
pr
that's funny.
I'm processing all of this and I don't have the words. I don't that's why I'm just like vacant. I'm like, I
This
just can't.
movie
It's
was
wild. It was something else. So, um, while who is riding this exercise bike, they flash to the skeleton that's hanging on the ceiling that has been stripped of everything but still has hair. So that's fun. We do see there's another victim restrained, and it winds up being Christopher Robin, who is begging, pleading, apologizing to Pooh. He's, I'm sorry I left. But this is weird because everything indicated that Christopher Robin was done for from the cartoon of earlier.
it did, but when you think about it, we have to remember that there was another dead person there, which was Tina. I'm not Tina, sorry, Mary. So
Yes,
I'm assuming at this point that Mary was who they were
it's
barbecuing that
they
night.
did a little bit of a bait and switch to us because but they made it seem like that was all Christopher Robin. So
They surely did.
this is like their reveal, which is not like a super exciting. It's not like, oh, it's like, oh, okay, anyway. So moving on. So Pooh, as Christopher Robin's like begging and pleading, I'm sorry, all this stuff, he just like walks away from him. And he looks at himself in the mirror, like he has a moment in the mirror. And there's this memory sequence with Christopher Robin as a child saying all these things to Pooh when they were friends, like, you're the best bear, and you're whatever kind
He
of
said, I'll
compliments you
never
give a bear.
leave.
Yeah, all those kind of things. Um, and at the end of it, this also confused me. This was a moment where I laughed too, because Pooh is like, they show a full, like a profile, I guess, and it's like he's salivating like out of his mouth, but he's also
Crying.
crying. But he
Yeah.
legit like his whole mouth and his nose are just like, like I don't. Is that how you cry? Like
I feel like he had the honey in his mouth because
he just walks around with that in his mouth. Just
I think so. But
well, also
yeah,
like eating and crying is like not that's not like a great
not a good
maybe
combination.
maybe work that out in therapy. I don't know. So that was the thing that was weird to me. So then from that moment who bugs out and he starts breaking ish all over. Like he is grabbing, he also grabs what I can only assume is Eeyore's tail.
Yes. Yes.
And yeah, I was like, oh no, like that's the only thing we see of Eeyore. And he starts flogging Christopher Robin, like hardcore, and he
it
gets like this crazy lashes all over his
it
back.
was Passion of the Christ level flogging, okay? I was just like, that is just I'm not gonna say the man's name, but you know who was in Passion of the Christ. I don't want y'all to think I'm blaspheming on that man's name.
No.
So but yeah, I'm
Yes.
like, he beat the shit out of him with Eeyore's tail.
He really did. And then right after he's done, he just goes and like plops his fiance's skeleton like nearby in a sink. So he just has like he's like, here's your fiance. I don't, he just pops her in the sink. And Pooh has quite a few skeletons laying around. Like just they're all over. And then he literally gives Christopher Robin like a blood bath as he kind of like
Yeah.
guts his freshest body. It's like he had a special drain set up. So like when he did it, all of the everything, and there was like a lot, like it's very graphic, just like goes and like rains down upon him. So he's definitely like letting him know. He's like, this is what you get for abandoning me. Like, I don't care, whatever. So that was a lot. It was a lot. Um,
And you know what, too? Just
hmm.
you said there were a lot of skeletons around, and there's a part earlier on where we see like it looks like the skeleton of a rabbit. So if y'all have paid attention, there's
Oh,
only Piglet and Pooh that are
that's a good
left.
point.
So all of the others, rabbit, owl, whoever else, they're all
You're
dead.
like, whoever. I was wondering about that. Like, I'm like, did they just like branch off or they eat them too? Or like what?
I believe they ate them too. It was like the survival of the fittest. So
I guess so. So back at the house, we see influencer slash OF friend Lara in the hot tub drinking by herself and taking lots of pictures in the hot tub. And she's the only friend, like you were saying, she took her phone back because she can't be without the gram or her OF and whatever. So she's taking all these pictures, and then when she's reviewing them while she's going through, she sees in the background like Pooh standing a little ways back, just like staring at her. Um, so she decides this is a good time to get out of the hot tub. She turns on the light, but no one's there. She like calls out. She's like, "Hello," and then the lights start flickering. And she just decides, you know what? No one's going to ruin my good time. I'm getting back in the hot tub. But for some reason, she makes a very silly decision to put her back in the same place where she saw someone watching her. So if even if you suspect that maybe someone was there and you're not entirely sure, maybe sit on the other side. That's one. Just
And also,
yeah.
she thinks it's Maria's stalker because she
She
said
does. She's like, "Are you stalking Maria?"
yeah, are
Yeah.
you still stalking Maria? So she definitely isn't afraid of this person. You could
She's like, "That's
tell.
none of my business." And then she just
Right.
goes,
Although I think that if I saw a bear in a
"A
plaid
man."
shirt and overalls
Yeah.
and he's just standing there with a bear head and stuff, I think I'd be a little worried.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would, regardless of if you're here to stalk me or my friend. I'm still I'm still a little concerned. Um, So, one of the things I liked about this scene, and there's not a lot of things I liked in general in this movie, but one of the things I liked about this scene is that because of her back facing the avenue that they're coming down and the light flickering, you get a cool, like, the light goes out, and then when it comes on, you see them like getting closer. Like, it's not a
Yeah.
thing where it's like step by step, like, they're continuously moving, but then you see it like every time. And then so they get up to her and Piglet just like chloroforms her. Like,
Yeah, which
they're
I was
very
like, what?
advanced. They're
Like
very advanced.
for animals that became feral and
And he's wearing
rejected
like
human
gloves
stuff.
too, like black leather gloves, it looks like.
Yeah.
And
I
he just
was
chloroforms her and they drag her out. And I was like, when did they learn this? Like, I don't...
right.
And then another surprise of surprises, they tie her up and they lay her down and I thought it was the road, but it's apparently the driveway of the house. And Winnie the Pooh can drive, you guys.
Yeah, I was like, how is he? First of all, where did he get the keys? Second of all, how is he behind the car? He's supposed to be feral. What?
Yeah, and
Hello?
not only was he just behind the wheel of the car, he's like revving it malevolently, like he knows like that that's like scary. And it's like, I thought you were feral in the bushes. Like what
Right.
how do we get here? So um he's revving the engine and Piglet, who we find is not super like mobile, like maybe he has arthritis or something, because he's kind of like lumbering around. So he's limping towards her with a sledgehammer. And then he kind of just stands like with his foot like on her side or her back. And while he does that, I guess just to keep her in place, Pooh very slowly just drives over her head. And we do get some really nice practical effects here, though. We do get some nice practical effects.
Yeah.
I did enjoy her eyeball dangling out of her head. It didn't look super realistic. It didn't.
No.
But I do like a gross, like creative kill. Do you know what I mean? So like
Yeah.
I was
I can
like,
understand
I think I was like, ooh, like out loud, like
that.
because I'm insane. So two of the girls returned to the house. I believe this was the couple, if I'm not
The
mistaken.
couple was no, I think the couple were up, they were in the house, but
You're
this
right,
was
you're right, you're
Jess
right.
and Maria who were at the
Yes,
dock.
Jess and Maria. And they find Laura, sorry, with her head smushed in the driveway. And they go in the house and they all kind of convene now in the house, the four girls that are left, and they see somebody wrote "Get Out" in blood on the
Right.
back glass doors, or I think they were just windows. I don't think they were actually
Yeah,
doors.
I think it was just giant windows.
Yeah. So the girls hear a sound and they're like looking around and they see Pooh outside and he's surrounded by a cloud of bees. Because
He
I guess
turned
the
into Candyman.
yeah. So all of a sudden we have Pooh slash Candyman. Um, but that's kind of the only time we see the bee thing too, which is like,
Well, you see it later.
do we? Maybe I missed that. Maybe I
Yeah.
was too busy writing or yawning or something. I don't know. Um, so instead of taking any action, they just all stand there holding hands, which I found to be an interesting choice. They were like, "Oh my God, there's a giant bear man
Right.
outside surrounded by bees. We should stand here and cry about it." Um, so they don't manage to lock the doors in time,
No.
but they do arm themselves with whatever they can find. There's like hammers and a comically large flare gun. That I thought when she pulled it out, I was like, "That's crazy. That's like Yosemite
Right.
Sam's gun. That's crazy." Um, So the girls are now separated into two groups like they were before, but it's two girls in each. The one is the couple, Zoe and Alice. The other is Maria and Jess, just like before. So the Zoe and Alice are like in this indoor pool room, and Piglet just attacks them from there. He still has a sledgehammer. Jess has fallen into the pool, and Piglet has
He knocked
Alice.
Alice out.
Well, Alice was right in front of him, and
Right.
instead of like going after her because that was like a surefire thing, he was like, "No, I want to go in the pool," right?
Yeah.
Which was an interesting choice.
I wrote
Yes.
down that he must like a moving target because he clearly could have just smashed Alice right then and not smashed in the way you guys are thinking. That's dirty. He had a mallet, so he could have just smashed her head like his name was like Gallagher. Um,
Oh,
I'm showing
Gallagher reference. Yes.
showing my age now.
Get the watermelon.
Right.
Yes.
So, but he definitely went after the more difficult target.
Well, he also did it in a very strange way because the pool, like you're stepping into a pool and you're swinging a sledgehammer, and the way that he's swinging it, he has to also bring it then up from under the water. So the amount of
Right.
energy you're exerting is just like
It's
silly.
weird.
It's
Yeah.
silly. Um, so he's going after her. He does finally manage to knock her in the head, a good one, and you get a nice blood spatter on the pool and the wall. And I say nice for all my forensic my forensic people out there. So Piglet goes back after the other girl, Alice, in the pool room after he takes care of the other one.
Which
And then
she wakes up just as her girlfriend is getting her face smashed.
so she does see that.
Oh
And
yeah.
then I think they knock her. I don't know if she passes out or they knock her out. I'm
They
not
might have
sure.
chloroformed her too. Who knows?
Might have. And then they're hauling her back to the woods. So Alice. So then we have Maria and Jess on their trail. So they're following them because they want to get their friend back because all their other friends are dead. So we show that Alice has been taken to their weird encampment and tied to some like wooden thing, but she's lying down, right?
Yeah.
So Pooh is nearby and takes a break to shovel some honey in his mouth, as one does. Here is where I was noting. So I don't know if this is the same as you, but so I was really looking at their heads or like Pooh's head in this sequence. And it's like I understand because they tried to make them look like realistic. Like I understand that why they tried to make them look like they did. But what's weird is that they're so wildly plasticky and there's no movement to the face really. Like there's not enough movement to convince you that it's something that's a living thing. It just looks like a Halloween
Right.
mask, like Texas Chainsaw, if so, like Leatherface wearing someone else's face. Do you know what I mean? Like that's kind of the energy it gives. To me, was that the moment that you thought you saw the guy's face?
Yeah, because when he was
Okay.
eating the honey, he like
Yeah.
stood up and it was like kind of dripping out. But if you look, you could see like the black eye makeup to kind of like make his eyes match the mask a little bit. And you could see
Oh,
his actual mouth moving underneath the mask to
okay.
try to help that stuff move.
I want
It's
to go back and see that.
Yeah, it's
I'm
weird
gonna go back.
because, like you said, on the up close shots, it's a practical thing.
Yes.
He's not the face is not moving, it's not
Nope.
anything, but there are times where like the ears twitch, and then there's CG. I'm sure it's CGI where he like his face changes. Like sometimes he smiles, sometimes he frowns, um,
Yeah, yeah. But
throughout.
like
But
when it's really just like trying to show you, like even the way he was eating honey, it's just like putting it like this. Do you know what
uh-huh,
I mean? And like the mouth doesn't open, close, it doesn't. And sometimes it has to be the actor who moves it. And so the whole mouth part moves a little bit, but that's all
mm-hmm,
you get. So
yeah,
that's like weird to me. Um,
they could have did a better job with that.
they could have. So the girl they have taken, so Alice, right? So Pooh, remember she's laying down. Pooh kind of like leans over her, and it looks like something bad is going to happen. And this is another part where I started laughing because it looks like I don't know if he's gonna like eat her face or something, but then he stands up and he just bitch slaps her. Like he just bitch slaps her, right?
And see, and I didn't understand what was going on because I felt like he was like hitting her, but not hitting her. It felt like he was fake hitting her.
Well,
But
that's like he's a pro wrestler.
but I was just like, what is going on?
Well,
I was totally confused at that point.
it was laughing. I was laughing because I was like, he just he just does that. And I mean, I even though it does look fake, I think that is we're meant to believe that he's hitting her, I believe.
Yeah.
So he's doing it over and over again. So then they cut to like later on where she's passed out from, I guess, being wildly bitch slaps or something, I guess. 'Cause it's crazy. Um, so Maria and Jess show up and they try to free her from this like thing she's been
The
tied to,
saw
which
contraption.
yeah, it's a weird thing. So Alice lets them know that Zoe has been unalived in the pool. That's the one in the pool. So they manage to free her and they go to make a run for it and they hear a scream. So they go to one of the structures because they're in that little like habitat again and they find Christopher Robin suspended from the ceiling. And Maria and crew that free him and then move to help the other captured person who was the person who was screaming. Um, that's where we find Charlene from earlier with the blonde hair. And that's why I was confused because I was like, Tina, Charlene, because Tina had red hair, Charlene's
Right.
blonde. Um, and I also didn't totally recognize her because she has been completely mauled. And
Yeah,
we
she's
learned
been
that,
disfigured.
yes, we learned that Piglet is the one who has disfigured her face. So they free her and she's limping off. And then when she finds out and she actually can see her face, she becomes kind of like full of rage and she wants revenge. So she yanks away the Yosemite Sam flare gun and is like
Wait,
yelling
which
for
which
Piglet.
that's
Yeah.
actually a real gun. I forgot. That's
Was it?
not,
I thought it was a
yeah.
flare gun.
No, because back when Maria first was like, they first saw Winnie the Pooh and they were holding hands in the house and everything. I totally forgot. She like has a meltdown and like totally freezes.
Yes.
And the other girls run off to the pool to get killed. And all of a sudden, Maria's like, I have a gun. And
Okay.
like runs upstairs to get this big giant Yosemite
I
Sam looking
really,
gun.
I'm
So
telling
yeah,
you, I really thought that it was a flare gun because of its size.
it's
And
so
also,
big.
at one point, they shot it, and the way that it shot made it also seem like it was a flare gun. Do you know what I mean? Because it wasn't
Yeah.
like a realistic anything else. So, okay, so it's a real gun. So that's fine. So she takes the real gun and
But she just snatched it so easily too,
she
though.
did. She just took
Like
it. Well,
this was
these girls are not equipped to handle this kind of adversity at all.
everybody there are only certain people in this movie that are not bitches, and they're all side characters. Every single main character is a bitch, okay?
Yes, it's true.
With the exception of Maria at times.
Maria has her
But
moments. She
yeah,
does. She's
yeah,
strong. She's strong.
yeah.
So she takes this gun. She's yelling for Piglet. She's like, ah, like she's ready for revenge, right? So Piglet appears and he's brandishing his giant John Cena chains again. I don't know if you guys remember John Cena had those big ass chains back in the day. Um, and she goes to shoot the gun, but it's out of bullets, allegedly, even though it's a massive cartoony gun. That's wild. But Pooh is right behind her, and they just like take care of her immediately. She's just dead, like immediately. Um, and then I couldn't tell if he dumps blood or honey on her.
He dumps honey on her.
Okay, he dumps honey on her, and then Piglet just like eats her face, I guess.
Yeah. And you know what I realized? She said something earlier, which made me think of why Alice did not get killed right away.
Okay.
He, when he was standing over Alice, he
Hmm.
smelled her. Like he just stood there and smelled her and decided he didn't want her to die right then. But remember with Charlene, she said, he just smells me. So I think there are certain people that he's attracted to in a
Um,
certain way. So he wants to keep them alive longer because he likes their scent.
well,
So
so
I
it's
think that
like,
was the same thing
yeah,
that was going to happen with Alice.
it's like when you have a meal and you eat your favorite thing
Yes,
last.
he's
That's
basically leaving his favorite meal for last. Exactly, his
uh,
favorite part of the meal, his
I
protein,
I hate that.
leaving a little
So
chicken last.
so Piglet, I guess, eats her face because that's what they do. Um, and then the other girls are still watching what happens to Charlene, and Pooh notices them watching, and he takes off after them. So now we're basically in this kind of action sequence of the movie. Alice has taken a sledgehammer to Piglet. She has taken it away from him, and she's like wailing on him and it's crazy. So Maria and Jess are dealing with Pooh, so they are still separated. So Alice somehow manages to dispose of Piglet because she's also able to get him restrained somehow. Like she just has like
She knocked him out with the mallet in the very beginning, and then she had time to drag him somewhere to tie
a
him up
full
with the
man pig,
chains.
people. She's strong.
Right,
She's a strong lady.
right.
So she takes care of him. But Pooh somehow like senses this and hears this.
He hears him scream when she finally kills him. She hears
Right.
that final blow. He hears that final blow.
Right. And he's like, oh my gosh, it's not my friend. So he appears back to Alice and he raises her up a post, Michael Myers style.
That's exactly what I wrote.
Michael Myers style. Also, Jason Voorhees has been known to do that on occasion.
Yes.
So he raises her up and he sticks an entire machete all the way through her mouth until it goes through the back of her head and she's stuck like that
Which is why I
to the
said that's a
post.
Michael Myers thing because he would do that.
He would.
He
Winnie
definitely
the
did
Pooh
that.
would not do that, but Michael Myers would do that. But we know where they got it from at least. They're like, you know, it'd be a
Yes.
great idea,
Just rip that
guys.
one scene completely.
Anyway, so Pooh, after that, he's like, anyway, I got other business to attend to. And he goes after Maria and Jess. So the girls, they see a car in the road and four creeper country guys appear. One of them is the guy from the shop.
Oh yeah, I
Who
got
you
their
said his name
names
before?
too. His name is Logan.
That's right. Oh, that's right. How could I
Um,
forget?
but he has three friends. It's Tucker, Colt, and John.
Of course, those are their names. Of course they
Mm-hmm.
are. So anyway, they see Pooh and they think it's just like some weird guy that they can take on. Like essentially, they're just like, oh, you think it's fun to like be
Mess with
weird to little
girls.
girls, like whatever.
Yeah.
So they advance on him armed with like crowbars and bats and things. And one guy looks like it looks like he has a champagne bottle. Like
I don't know what he had.
it looked like it was the same shape and it was like the green. Like
Yeah.
it didn't look like a whiskey bottle. It looked like a champagne
It looked
bottle.
like he was gonna like break it and like have like something to
But he didn't. He was just holding the whole thing. It was, you
right.
know, whatever. So Pooh is going after um he's not actually going after them. He's standing there and they advance on him.
Mm-hmm.
So they're giving him the four guys surround him, they give him like a beat down and he's sustaining injuries, but he's not taking
Any
like
damage.
damage like
Yeah.
you would expect. And he's just still kind of standing there. Like he moves a little bit, you know what I mean? Um, but then the one guy who I don't know which of the guys had the bottle,
It's Colt.
Colt, it pains me to say that. Colt smashes the bottle on Winnie's head and he's like, oh no. Like that's the thing that pisses him off finally.
Right.
So he turns around and he basically just rips half of his face off. Just like he's
Yes.
just like
I
like
said he slapped the skin off Colt.
he did.
Yeah.
He did. And this of course, this freaks out the other guys, right? So they're just like at this point, Pooh's wreaking havoc on them. He's like stomping on them. He's
Yeah.
just
He
decimating them.
he stomps
Um,
on Tucker's head. He then turns and slices Logan's throat. And that sends John starts running, and this is where he sends the Candyman bees after John.
oh, okay,
And
that's what I
they
missed.
kill him.
So we have one, just one, we have two things of bees here. Now, this is nothing, I just want to take a moment to take this aside. We have only two things with bees, and it's the one with the cloud, the Candyman cloud, and then this. And there's no explanation. There's no other, like, he summons the bees. He's the king of the bees. It's just, there's no explanation whatsoever. I didn't even catch that
No,
part. That
no.
this man, John, was killed by Winnie the Pooh's bees.
Which he just like he did like this in the air or something like that, and they just came out the woods. Like what? How did he summon them like that? Like if you ever watch the cartoon, when he's getting the honey out of like the honeycombs and stuff like that,
Yeah, yeah,
or the
yeah.
hives, there are bees around, yes, and
Yeah,
they
of
don't
course.
bother him because I guess
No.
they're like, okay, it's Winnie, whatever. So I guess this is a
Like
kind of
this
like a
guy again.
right. I guess it's a little callback to how he used to do that because they do show him like kind of getting honey from like a honeycomb or something at one point, like slightly. And so maybe it's that, but it's just weird that he
That's
definitely
so
the
weird.
very first time we see that cloud of bees following him, it was extremely Candyman like, and they played
Yes.
no role in that part of the movie. They literally
No.
just followed him and then they were gone. We
So
never
we're
saw them again until the end of this movie.
no, so we have just like rip-offs kind of just like left and right now. So this is like clearly supposed to be a slasher movie, right? But then we have like our Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees elements. They're in the woods. There's Candyman. Like, come on, guys. Anyway,
Saw contraption.
you saw a contraption. Like, I don't know. So the girls are left with the guys' trucks because, as you mentioned, John was killed by bees in the trees or whatever happens. So weird. So they drive forward and they actually run Pooh over and they continue to drive away and they don't see him though after they run him over and they're like, where is he? It's because he's on the back of the truck, of course. He's climbing up and he climbs onto the roof and he's like pounding on their windshield. So Maria crashes the car And when she picks up her bloodied face off of the steering wheel, she sees Jess being hauled out and away by Pooh away. And he proceeds to decapitate her, and he's just holding her head. He's just holding it. And
This next
Maria
scene.
Maria's doing her best to get the truck started, but cannot. And Pooh just throws Jess's head on the windshield, and this is made worse by the fact that unfortunately Maria has turned on the windshield wipers, and so
Right.
the head's just like,
And the blood is smearing. You can't see nothing. I'm
and
like,
I
oh
was
my
just like,
God.
and also the head's clearly like a mannequin head, like it's like very bluntly like cut. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's not a real head, you guys. It's not a head. So, um, that was wild. So who after that gets Maria out of the car and he's about to knife her when Christopher Robin appears and he drives into Pooh with the car he found somewhere. It looks like it was
Right.
partially like burned out or something. I don't know.
It's probably from the 100 Acre Wood somewhere because Pooh had to
Somewhere.
learn how to drive in somebody's car.
Who
So
taught him to drive? Oh my God. Anyway, anyway. So I can't. I'm sorry. I'm still thinking about like who taught like is it like Rabbit? Rabbit was like, I learned how to drive once and I'm gonna show you. Like,
it
I
was
don't
it
know.
was Kanga because that was the only adult and they had ate her before
Oh
the
my
movie even
gosh, I
started.
forgot about Kangaroo and
And
her little
Rue, Kanga
baby,
and Rue,
Kanga and Roo.
they ate her right away. And Rue.
This movie is dumb. Anyway, anyway. So Christopher Robin drives the car into him and manages to get him pinned between the car and the truck. And it's like on fire and he looks like he's done for. Like Pooh's like slumped over or whatever. So Christopher goes to help Maria and Pooh manages to free himself from between the two cars. And he pulls Maria away. And Christopher's pleading with him to stop. And he's trying to remind him in this moment, and as he's tried before, that there's good inside him. And he's like, this isn't you. Like, I know you. I just, whatever. And he's doing this whole kind of like come to Jesus speech. And Pooh just decides he doesn't give a single F what Christopher Robin said and just unalives Maria right in
with
front of him,
with the only words he spoke in the entire movie.
which was weird. I couldn't entirely make it out. What did
He
he
said,
say?
You left. After he looked like he was gonna let Maria live, he just looked at him and said, You left, and sliced her
He
throat.
was like, I don't care. That's, I mean, listen, he needs to go to therapy. Still learning to drive. Or maybe he should have driven his ass to the therapist. I don't know. I don't know.
And once
But
again, we have bitch ass Christopher Robin not helping nobody.
no, no, not helping at all. So he's just like, whatever. And then Pooh goes on like a stabby rampage on Maria, even though she's pretty much gone at that point. But it's like just he's just like going like
Yeah.
Chucky, right? So then from there, Christopher Robin just runs into the woods. And then the movie's over. That's it.
The
That's the
end.
movie. That's the movie, guys. That's the
Yeah.
movie. So I know we're going to talk about this, but I just let me be the first to say, like, I didn't find this movie scary in the least. I do like a slasher movie. This didn't do anything for me. It felt silly. It felt like we were saying, like ripped off in places. I believe what I texted you about it were the words like unbelievably dumb, I think was what I said.
Yeah.
Um, I kind of just like I think I want to know. Not I think I know. I would love to know what this pitch meeting was like. So they're like, so let's take Winnie the Pooh and let's make it a horror movie, but then let's make that horror movie terrible.
Right.
That's the pitch. That had to be the pitch, right? And they were like, oh yes, let's do that. Like I don't understand. I don't understand.
The issue is that because I feel similarly. I think this
Just one
movie,
issue.
right? I feel like this movie was stupid. I I can't even say any other words for it. I would say it's one of those movies that, it's a Friday night and you don't have anything else to do besides like pick the toe jam out from between your toes and you want to watch something while you do that. This might be the movie that you watch while you do that because you have nothing else better to do. But my whole thing is they took and remember Tigger's not in this movie because he's copyrighted. He can't be used. Their
Right.
copyright on the rest of these characters ran out in 2022 in America. So they could have taken this and they could have actually done something good with this because I'm all for an actual like Winnie the Pooh horror. And when this first came out, I saw the preview for it and I was like, this looks cheesy, but I'm interested. But like they botched it. Like this was horrible. And then had the nerve to have a second one. There's another one of these. We're not watching that shit.
We're not
There's
watching
another
it.
one.
We're not. No.
Oh my
Except that
God.
you said they had the nerve. They had the nerve to make a second one. And
Right.
I don't understand, like when I was reading about just the movie itself, they were saying it was like a viral, and I was like, why? Why?
I could see why though. I
No,
could
but
see
like
why.
because it's but like the only acceptable thing that I can hear from people is that it was terrible. Not like, oh my God, I love it. It went viral and it's like a cult classic. And I'm like,
Yeah, no, it went viral because
no,
it was bad,
it was
probably.
bad. It was bad. Like it's weird because like it's so weird. And like we didn't see that much else of them. So like I just want to go back to you have a full grown ass man shaped like a man, right? It walks like a man, it's got boots on, right?
He's wearing the most farmer ass outfit.
Yes. But also he has hands that are like yellow, like yellowy, like they match it to like his face. And even though they're not 100% like human-y hands, they are to an extent human hands. So like really the only thing at the end of the day that's different or weird is just like the neck and the head, and it just doesn't get there. So it just looks like a man who went to Spirit Halloween and got one of their plasticky like pig masks, right,
Yeah.
off the wall for $25 or $30, whatever. And then they're just like, now I'm Winnie the Pooh in a horror movie. Like, no, just no, it's a no from me. It's a no. Like,
Yeah.
I, I,
I mean,
I
I
don't.
I will say this. Overall, this movie gets an F for me. But there are a few things that I actually do like. The music in this movie actually drives the movie along quite nicely.
Hmm.
There are very, very strong emotional beats to the music in this movie. So I really didn't like I enjoyed that. And in fact, there is a part, and I'm trying to find it. They have words that they sing when Pooh is doing stupid stuff, like get ready to kill people.
Was that like
And
the weird like chant?
yes,
Like it
they
almost sounded like some kind of like satanic chanty
it did, and they
thing.
said some place that smell, some place that smell, something, 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 something. So that's what they were saying, and I was waiting for it to be more than that,
And that was it.
but they're saying that smell when they're like showing corpses or he's got some honey in his mouth, and so it's like they're saying this stinks. Okay, it's nasty. And so I was like, that is so weird that they chose, and they only did it twice
Oh,
in the movie. And it was when
they
Pooh was doing some old nasty honey eating stuff. Or when it actually they did it when Christopher Robin was getting the bloodbath, they did it then. And then they did it
right.
later on when he was gorging on all the honey before he climbed over top of Alice and dripped it all over her
And
face.
then this just bitch slapped.
Right. But I will say the music and even that
Uh,
little chant, I think that was those were the really good aspects to this movie. I also did like the practical effects.
I did like the practical
They
effects. I
did
agree with
really
you.
good with the practical effects.
I agree with you.
Every single kill, including Charlene's makeup when her face is all messed up,
Good.
like they did a really good job with all of that
They
stuff.
did.
Even like that them running over Laura with a car, like running her head over and her
Yeah,
eyeball
yeah.
popping out and everything. That's not real, but it was done really well.
It was done well.
Um,
I agree. I
so
do agree.
yeah,
I I just want to go back. I know we already said this, and but just like when you're talking about when he had the honey and he was leaning over
Alice.
Alice, and it's like it's almost as if they tried to go in one direction, but it didn't work, right? Where they were like, let's do something weird. Like, why don't you like lick her face or something? But then they're like, oh, well, you can't because your face is plastic and it would look really weird and it looks
Because it would be a
terrible and
little
it's not going to
tiny
work.
human tongue coming out instead of a big bear tongue. It would be like,
Well, what happened? You know, Freddy Krueger did that weird thing with the phone, right?
yes,
And that's clearly a fake tongue. But
but
still,
they
I'm
had
like,
better effects and they had more money.
I know.
Okay.
But I'm just saying, so it's like, it's weird because it's like, what was the point of that to then go back and instead of doing something scarier, because that moment had the potential for more like an actual scare, an actual horrible, gross out thing. But instead of that, or even it could have just been like, I don't know, just like spit blood on her or something. But instead, he just slapped her. And it's like, come on,
The
come
problem
on.
is that remember because they don't tell you this. So you're just left to kind of assume. Piglet smelled her and wanted her. So Pooh couldn't do much with her because she's being saved for Piglet. And so I think this was his way of like, I'm gonna say this because we're pretty far in. It's like he's edging himself because he's like eating the honey someplace that smell blah blah blah, and then he's like dripping the honey all nastily all over her face, and it's a very it's like a moment where he's like, I'm gonna eat you up later, and I'm just like,
Right.
so that's what it felt like because he couldn't do anything because that's Piglet's bay at this point.
You know what I love though? I think it's so funny. Like for me, I feel like this was so silly that I didn't consider any of those points that you just made because they're like rational, intelligent. I did not imply any like practical thought to this, but it's that I was picturing while you were saying that, like the writers like debating in the room, just like what you're saying. You're like, no, because that's piglets, and I'm just like, wow, like I'm just yeah, no, because it makes sense. Like I'm not knocking it, but I'm just like,
Yeah,
I didn't think any of that about it because I was just like, this seems silly, and I think what makes it unfortunate because when people, no one, few people, I'm sure people have before put out bad movies on purpose. I'm sure that's true. I feel like that wasn't what they tried to do here. I feel like they wanted it to be scary. I feel like they thought that they did something like good, you know? So then I feel bad being like, it's not what you didn't do what you thought you did. Like I'm, I'm
I
sorry.
I think that I don't know what else the director Rhys has done, but I
I know
I
what else
think
he's done. The sequel. He's
I
done the sequel.
I think honestly they went into this thinking that it was going to be something that they could make scary, and as they were making it, they said this is stupid, and they just said let's just go with it. I think that that's what happened because when they started looking at like because the thing is when you start the movie and they're like showing you the sketch drawings and stuff,
Hmm.
that whole beginning sequence sets up a really good um scene for the movie. Like you really think, okay, this could actually be good because I really was into it at that point. But
Right.
I think once they said, well, we can't get animatronics and we can't do CGI, so we're going to have to get you big men in some masks, and we're going to cover your face with some stuff to try to mask your lips and your eyes, but we did a bad job. And then it was like, and you can't really put the honey in your mouth, so we're just going to have you
Right.
drip like glycerin all over yourself. It's just like
Glycerin.
it was just it was just weird, and I think they was like, okay, this isn't going to be good, so let's just make it as bad as we
I feel like you're giving them a lot of credit. And
can.
I hope that you're right. I hope that you're right. But I'm looking up, oh, this, okay, so let me tell you. So I just looked up this director while you were speaking. So I wasn't tuning out, just so you know. I wasn't like, yeah, yeah, that's nice. So I was looking. So let me tell you what else this person has made. Um, there's a movie. It says upcoming. Oh, it's upcoming. Oh, good. There's more. There's a movie upcoming called Pooniverse Monsters Assemble coming out in 2025.
Yeah, they're making stuff bad on purpose.
Now they are. I think
Yeah.
now they are. There's also a movie called The Killing Tree, and the art just looks bad. And wait, there's more. Hold on. Um, Fire Nado is one that they made.
Oh
There's
my
also
God.
one called Dinosaur Hotel. So
I would watch that.
it looks like, you
I
know what
would watch that.
it looks like? Oh, yeah. So he also did some movies called like Easter Bunny Massacre, um,
Yeah.
Monsters of War. So it looks like Croc, the Deadly Swarm. It looks like this person likes to make kind of like blocky monster movies, I want to say,
It
maybe.
sounds like it. And with the exception of the Killing Tree, I feel like I've heard of that in another like context.
The
Like there's
Killing
either a book,
Tree.
there's either a book or something called that. Um, that's the only one that sounds
Oh
normal,
no,
though
it
I know it's
doesn't.
not from him.
Can I tell you? Can I tell you right now? So I was on board too. The Killing Tree. I'm like, oh, so I start reading it and I'm like into it. I'm like, okay, I can get into this. Ready? So on Christmas Eve, a scorned widow casts an ancient spell to resurrect her executed husband. With it, I'm okay, right?
Okay.
However, when the spell goes wrong, the husband is brought back as an evil Christmas tree, hell bent on getting revenge on the one who caused his execution. So you lost me. You had me at the beginning, and you lost me at the end.
I'm done with him. Reese can go right to hell.
We can't watch any more movies unless someone pays us money, guys, for
I'm only
this.
going to watch Dinosaur Hotel. Okay, it's the only one I'm
I'm
watching
gonna
for
watch
free.
Dinosaur Hotel, but that's it. Um, I'm disappointed honestly because The Killing Tree, like a widow, she's casting a spell. Her husband was executed. Why was he executed? What happened? What did he do? Did he kill someone? Interested. He's the evil Christmas tree. No, less interested. Not. I can't do it.
It's like Chucky meets trees. Like, no, thank you.
Man. All right.
But
Well, I'm glad you're doing a career that you love, Rhys Frake Waterfield, but
yeah.
it's not working for us. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm gonna ask you,
Oh.
how many bloody X's
Oh God.
are you giving
Okay.
this lovely movie? The pause.
This is hard. I want to give it, I'm torn. I want to give it two. I'm going to give it two, and I'm going to give it two because of the practical effects um that I enjoyed. And there was the scene with the light that I liked, the flickering light
Mhm.
and the music and the weird satanic pooch and also they had really nice skeletons. I appreciated their skeletons
Yes,
and I
I love a good
appreciated
skeleton.
nothing else. So honestly, I think that's generous. I think the two is generous. But that's all I guess from me. Two bloody axes. What about you?
I am going to give 2.5.
Oh,
And yeah,
okay.
now they're getting all of their points. The majority of them, I'm gonna say 1.5 points goes to the music. I'm a music
Okay.
person, and
Yes.
I that honestly was those parts stood out the most to me, and I really, really appreciated them. I thought they were really good, and
Yeah.
so that goes to that. The rest of it goes to the practical effects,
Good
because those
practical
were
effects.
also good. And I will include like a half a point or whatever I have left to the actual sketch drawing part in the beginning, because
Oh,
I think
yeah.
that that was really good too. So they had, three aspects that were good about this movie, but the rest of it can go right into the trash heap. So
Yeah. Well, join us next time for Dinosaur Hotel. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I can't. I
yeah.
can't do it. Yeah, I this is not I will give it this as kind of I don't know if this is like a backhanded compliment. While it wasn't an enjoyable watch, I think because of the music and other elements, I don't think it was as difficult to watch as Devil Made Me Do It.
Listen, I will say that every movie after The Devil Made Me Do It has been easier to watch for
Yeah,
whatever reason. And again, I know we talked about The Devil Made Me Do It. The Devil Made Me Do It as a standalone movie, if you don't think it's a part of the Conjuring universe, is a decent movie.
it's
It's
fine.
just slow and it drags. And if you
Yes.
have to actually write something about that damn movie, it's horrible because you got to stop. It
It's
took me
hard.
2 days to write for that movie.
Yeah, that
So,
was hard.
so yeah, so everything else after that. So honestly, this movie, it was an hour and 36 minutes or so, which is the same amount of time that also The Devil Made Me Do was around that much time.
Oh wow.
And the last two movies we did were around that same period. So
Mhm.
I mean, but it was so much easier to
It
watch.
was easier, like I said, not enjoyable. I didn't enjoy watching it, but it wasn't like I don't know. I did check how much longer there was a few times, but I was like, "Oh, okay." But it wasn't that bad. It wasn't great, but it wasn't that bad.
I think what made it move is because this movie doesn't have any, it doesn't really have any points where things are just slow. Like there's
Right,
almost action happening, driving the non-story along the whole entire time. Like
right.
the only part of this story that has substance is when Maria is telling her friends about the stalker, and they show, like, they did a little flashback of her in the room and he like creeps up in her bedroom and stuff. So that was the only part that was really story driven outside of Christopher Robin and Winnie the Pooh, which those parts were stupid too.
They were.
So,
But you know
you
what's
know,
interesting? And I was thinking about this. It's like they didn't even need to get into or shoot her actual
right.
traumatic event. It didn't do anything for the rest of the movie. It wasn't like they set it up so they could reference it later. So like the one with Lara where she thought he was like the stalker when it was like Pooh, like watching from
Right.
the garage or whatever. Um, but it didn't do, and maybe they just need, they're like, we'll just put it in because the movie's not long enough. Like I don't,
But here's the thing: they didn't need to shoot those scenes.
they didn't need
The
to.
only reason they were shooting that, I believe, is to give you a sense of the actual terror she was going through. Because if
Yeah,
you're watching it, like the way the man comes up, he literally like she's laying in the bed sleeping, he like creeps up on the side of her bed, and I'm
I didn't
thinking
like
that
that.
yeah, and so I think that's what they're going for, to give you that sense of this is why she was in therapy, this is why she was creeped out,
Yeah,
and it sets you up for later on why she like freezes and doesn't do anything, where everybody's like, we gotta stick together and get some weapons, and she's just like,
it does.
so
It does, but at the same time, like you're saying, she could have just told them, like that we
mhm.
didn't need to see it. But on the flip, perhaps the guy who was Piglet as well, as you mentioned, it was the same guy. Maybe he was like, I'm only doing this movie if I get a scene without a mask on.
Right,
You never know. He's like, I want my 5 seconds in the sun.
right, because
Where I
yeah,
get to be creepy, so if people see me on the street, they think I'm a stalker. Meh.
right.
Maybe that's it. That's all I can say. I don't know. I don't know about it. But yeah, I mean, this was I think this was the lowest one we did. I think even Conjuring got a few. Devil Made
Oh
Me Do It
yeah,
got a few.
yeah,
It was a little higher up there.
because the Conjuring had much better scenes, and like I said, the story with the Conjuring was good.
Yeah,
I'm not mad at the story.
I think this was the worst one so far.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. This is trash. We have not said that anything was like dumpster fire trash. This
No,
is trash.
it's trash.
And like I said, if you're watching this, I hope that the toe jam that you're picking out is great and satisfying, because
This is not. This is not it.
this isn't it.
This is even like how you said before, you know, if you that's the only way you should watch this. I also want to add, make sure you go through everything else first. Everything else on Prime, Netflix, Hulu. Watch everything else before you watch this,
Yeah.
please.
Including Dinosaur Hotel.
And Sharknado.
Yeah.
Not the
Not
same,
Fire NATO.
not Firenado,
No.
Sharknado. Don't go
Yes.
crazy with this guy's movies. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Reese, wherever you are. Whatever Fire NATO 7 movie you're making, buddy, you know,
Pass.
reconsider. Reconsider what you're doing. That's all. That's all.
Well,
But yeah, I mean, I don't have anything else to add to you.
no. So I guess we're just gonna close this out. So thank you for
Thank
tuning
you.
in to
Yes.
another Horror Ghouls pod, and we do hope you had a good time with us despite the movie. um, and if you have any spooky theories, thoughts, or movies that you'd like us to chat about, please let us know on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, all at the Horror Ghouls. And please make sure to follow and subscribe for more eerie analyses and haunting discussions. We might even have a little blood and honey in there for you. So
Maybe. Don't like super count on it, but maybe
no,
it's in there. I
right,
don't
right. So until next
know.
time, stay spooky, keep the darkness close, and maybe skip that girls' trip in the woods, weird half-breed animals.
Solid advice.
Yes, and
See you
skip this
next
movie
time.
too.
Skip it. Skip it. See you later.
Bye, guys.
Bye.